Recording. You're welcome. Check, check. All right. If you want to follow along while I'm doing this, that's fine. If you want to watch, that's fine. Whatever works for you. This isn't really a slow down sort of presentation. We're just going to show you a bunch of things. It is being recorded, so you can go back and watch. But the first thing that you're going to need to do, if you don't already have one, is you're going to need to create an Epic Games account. I have an account already. I'm already logged in. If you're not logged in, you're going to see a login screen, and it's going to ask you to create an account. Go ahead and do that. You're going to need that to be able to actually create projects and log in. That account, if you take that account and you go and log in on another computer, it's not going to pop up your projects. All that account is going to give you is your fab library, if you have any assets that you've acquired. It's not going to bring your projects over. That's something that you need to plug in your hard drive and transfer those projects, right? So go ahead and make one of those accounts, log in as you can, and we're going to get started. So I'm creating a project from zero here. I'm going to launch 5.7. So I click launch. And there's this new screen with 5.7 that's going to load. It's going to ask me what sort of project I want to create. Depending on how fast your computer is, this could take a while to load up. You ever see this screen? Well, not that screen. If you're ever loading a project in Unreal and it just seems to be taking forever to open, just be patient. Just wait longer. If you ever see that the percentage is kind of stuck at 33 or 45 or 90%, just wait longer. Most likely your computer is not crashed. You just need to be patient.
Can we get 5.73 or 7?
7.2 is fine. Those extra numbers are very small changes. So after you create a project, whether you're doing it now or following along in the video or whatever, this is kind of the new welcome screen. And I would not take this for granted as a new Unreal Engine person. You know, as somebody that Unreal Engine master like myself, I kind of just want to get through this as fast as possible. I don't look at any of this stuff. But they've taken a lot of time to put resources here, documentation, tutorials, those sorts of things. Depending on what type of project that you're making, you can click through the buttons up top. I would like you to start with, unless you're comfortable with Unreal, honestly, it doesn't really matter. We can always just create a new map. But for those of you that are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and I'm going to go through this to start with actually, I recommend doing this tutorial right here. Should be the first thing that you see when you load up this window. And this is actually an interactive tutorial. It's basically a game that will show you how to use Unreal Engine as a game. This is brand new as of the last 2 months. This is pretty cool because I used to basically have to do this from scratch. But now they actually have one they're suggesting for everybody. So go ahead and launch that, and it's going to launch a new project. In the interest of time, I actually already have it loaded. And this is the level editor right here. You don't hesitate to ask questions or anything. Just take a little tour of the interface here. This window is because we're doing the tutorial. You can always close this window down. But again, as Unreal Engine newbies, I would not take this for granted. This is useful documentation, and it's pretty cool to have it built right into the engine now. So you can look at all this stuff on your own time. For the moment being, I'm just going to kind of shrink this window out of the way. An Unreal Engine, like any software, you can make the menus bigger, you can grab onto the edges and shrink them down. Give yourself enough room to work with in the space. We only have one monitor here to use. Usually I like to put the menus on another screen, give myself even more room to work with. But just give yourself some space. So let's take a quick little tour here. So again, I'm going to close this window down a little bit. This is the main viewport right in the middle. This is where all the stuff happens. If you're familiar with 3D, you might know that you can have other camera views. In the top right, in this little grid icon, that gives you the 4 view. What this is showing me the map from a top view and a front view and a side view. If you ever want to go back to a main view, you can click the button in the top right again, and it will maximize whatever window it is that you're clicked on. I don't want to confuse you too much right now, so we're going to not spend a ton of time on that. Over on the right, we have an outliner in the top right. The outliner right here. This is a list of, think of it sort of like a project window in After Effects or Premiere. All 3D softwares have something like this. This is where everything that's in your world, every actor that's in your world is listed. You can organize with folders and that sort of thing, and color code things. If I click on something in my world, like this wall in front of me, the outliner is going to jump to that asset and highlight it. I can click the eyeball on it to hide it temporarily. Keep in mind, this eyeball doesn't actually hide it. It's just like a preview hiding. So if you go to render, it's not actually going to be hidden. There's other ways to hide things. Then when I click on something, I can look at the details panel below that. And that's going to show me whatever details there are that are important for the asset that I clicked on. So for instance, this wall in front of me, which all this wall is just a cube, which we're going to look at how to manipulate in a second. So in these details here, I can do things like transformation. I can change the location of it. I can change the rotation, the scale. I can change which mesh it is. I can change which material it has on it. Remember, materials are the paint. I can do lots of other things that are a little bit more advanced for our purposes here. There's always search menus that you can type in what you're looking for there. Down bottom, this is what mine looks like currently. Yours probably looks similar. There's the content drawer. I don't love the content drawer because it slides in and out. As soon as you click on something, it disappears, which is nice because it gives you room, but I tend to like to dock this in my layout. So when I click on the content drawer, I usually go over here and click dock in layout, and that's just going to dock the content browser as an actual window that is just permanent. It does shrink down my viewport a little bit, but I think for our purposes right now, it's fine. You can also rearrange these panels into different configurations just by grabbing on the tabs, similar to lots of other softwares. So the content browser is going to list assets that you've downloaded from Fab or manually imported, and all that stuff's going to be here. If I was to browse on my hard drive for this project, not entirely sure where this project got created. Didn't really give me a chance to manually create. Let's look. Unless you specify otherwise, most projects are going to be in your Documents, Unreal Projects folder. And here's what we looked at earlier, which folder it is that you want to back up. So this is the stuff that you want to see in your project. Content, intermediate, saved, the .u project file. I want to back up this whole UE intro project folder if this is something that, if this is my project, right? When you create a new project in Unreal, you can specify where it is that you save it to. I think when you do this tutorial, it just automatically does it because it assumes you don't know what you're doing. But if I was to go to new project, hit the big blue button over here instead of clicking the tutorial, it's going to ask me, like, where do you want to save that project? What do you want to call it? Okay. We're going to use some of these other things as we do this little demo here. So let's look at this window in front of us right here. This is going to show us how to do everything. Welcome to Unreal Engine 5. I'm going to go full screen here. Welcome to Unreal Engine 5. Let's learn how to look around. So if I hold the right mouse button, like I'm moving my head around, right? I'm staying in the location, I'm just turning my head. Complete 360 degrees. And those of you that play video games, this should be very intuitive. Those of you that get nauseous from 3D video games, this is going to take a little bit more time to get used to. Right now, we are not in play mode. We are just in editor mode. So if I hold down left mouse button and drag, I can kind of move myself around, right? You kind of do these things simultaneously. Left drag, head look, go over here, look at this cube, back up, spin around, look over here. If you hold down both mouse buttons, you can pan left, right, and up and down. Another really useful keyboard shortcut to know here is the F key. If I click on this wall in front of me and hit F, F for focus, it's going to focus the camera on whatever it is that I have selected. So if you ever get lost or want to zoom in on something, F for focus. This is an interactive demo, so I'm going to follow along and do what this says here. It says to, after I'm comfortable using my mouse buttons and moving around, I'm going to go ahead and click play. And the play button is not really something that we use in this class much because we're making films. We're not making interactive games. But for this purpose, for this demo, we're going to click the green play button up top. Interesting. Not sure why that gave me a blueprint error, but let's continue. So now I'm in game. I just made mine full screen with F11 so you could see more. And to get out of this, I can hit escape button and go back into the game. Now it's very much like computer first-person shooter control video games. WASD moves you forward and back and left and right. The mouse is your head. If you ever played a computer game before, this is exactly what you do. Which makes sense because most of the 3D video games that are made these days are made with Unreal. So I'm just going to follow this path and do these little tips. So we're going to go through this tutorial. That's going to tell us what to do. WASD, mouse, and spacebar jumps. All right. First kiosk here, moving objects. We're going to use the move, rotate, and scale tools, which are keyboard shortcuts W, E, and R. And in the top left of my screen right now, you can see that the little toolbar is actually appearing and disappearing. It's showing us what it looks like. So we're going to click an object And then we're going to do those things, move, rotate, and scale. In order to do this, we need to return back to editing mode. Again, this is just a playable tutorial. Going into this play and going back to edit mode is not something that you're actually going to do when you make your own worlds. So I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to move and scale these objects. I'm going to grab onto the square in front of me under scale. I'm going to hit the R key. And you see that I can grab onto these little arms of this widget, and I can scale in those directions. If I select the middle one, I can scale uniformly. The next one is rotate. Rotate is the E key on the keyboard. So if I hit the E key, now I have the rotation widget. Again, I can rotate in X, Y, and Z axes. Rotate the little cube. The last one, move, is the W key. Same thing, grab onto the widget, move stuff around. Pretty simple. Another keyboard shortcut is you can use spacebar to alternate through move, rotate, and scale instead of W, E, and R. You can also get them up here in the top left of your viewport. Selection, move, rotate is blue right now, and scale is the last one. All right, let's keep going through our little tutorial here. The content drawer. Guess we already docked our content drawer, but that's okay. The content drawer or the content browser, this is where you drag new actors, new objects into your world. It's saying that we have some sample meshes and content level prototyping meshes. Let's drag some into the world because we're trying to get across this gap here. We can't get across the gap until we fill it in with blocks. So we're going to go into edit mode, and then we're going to go back into play mode. I'm in play mode right now. I'm going to jump into the gap. Oh no, I can't get up to the other side because it's too high. I need to fill this in and build a bridge for myself by dragging in some cubes or something. So I'm going to hit escape, get out of here, exit full screen, telling me to go to level prototyping meshes, drag some cubes in. You know, I could drag multiple cubes in if I wanted to. I could just take one and I could just scale it, make it really big. I could fill in the whole darn thing, honestly. Just fill it in. Really doesn't matter how you do it for this. And go back into play mode and keep on going along. So this next kiosk here is all about the details panel. It's going to say we're going to walk up the ramp, but we're going to sink right through the ramp. I'm not going to be able to go up this ramp. I'm just going to go right through it. I'm going to see this red wall. Because it's saying that this ramp doesn't have any collision settings on. Collision isn't really something that we use in this class unless you're doing live projects. Then we would use collision. But this is a demonstration of the details panel. So I'm going to hit escape and get out of here. I'm going to select the ramp. Get out of full screen again. F11. I'm going to select the ramp. See, it selects it in the outliner here, ramp 5. If I go over to my details panel, I can scroll down to the collision section. And in this drop-down menu for collision presets, see it says no collision, which is why we're going right through it, like a ghost. I'm going to click the drop-down and I'm going to go to block all. So now it should be a solid surface. If I go back to play again, I should be able to walk right on top of it. Did it. So there's all sorts of features in the details panel. Click on the asset that you want to modify the details for, look at the details panel, make your changes. Again, collision's not something we're probably going to use, but still we use the details panel. The outliner. Let's look at how to use the outliner. There's a hidden object blocking the way across this bridge. If I try to go across the bridge, oh no, I run into this wall. It's telling me that I need to go into the outliner, select that asset, and delete it with the delete key. All right, I'm going to hit escape to get out of there. And if I just click the empty space, the outliner selects blocking volume right away. That's just what it was called. It's an invisible shape right now. Actually, it's not. You can see how gigantic it is outside the level right here. It's right there. If I select that and I delete it, disappears. Should be able to go back into play mode now and run right through this. What's next here? Materials. Like I said earlier, think of materials like the paint that you paint on 3D objects. They control how light interacts with the surface of the 3D objects. You can change them, you can create your own in the material editor. Right now it wants us to click the ball and find its blue material in the details panel. It says to try changing the base color, the metallic channel, and the roughness setting. Okay, we can do that. So here's the blue ball. I'm going to escape out of this into editing mode. Get out of full screen. Click the blue ball. And in the details panel, over in the bottom right, here's the material. It's blue. The little game here wants us to double click the material. This is a pre-made material here. A lot of times when you double click on things in Unreal, you'll get another window that pops up. You can snap these windows into tabs up top, which is usually what I like to do to simplify things navigation-wise. So this is a material editor for this material instance. In the top right, it has a drop-down called Surface Properties. That sounds like it's going to let me change the color and stuff here. So here I can change the base color, the metallic, and the roughness of it. How metallic, how shiny is it, how rough is it, and what color is it? I'm actually going to drag this tab out to the side so we can look at these things together. So if I click on the base color, I can change the color of this thing to whatever I want. Let's go to a nice magenta. If I change the roughness to say 0, I have a nice specular highlight on there right now. See how it's a reflection of what's behind me. Actually, if I make the roughness 1, these values are 0 and 1. 1 is max, 0 is minimum. If I make the roughness 1, it's a completely matte surface now. If I make metallic 1, so it just makes it darker, but it's still not very shiny. It's still kind of matte. If I start lowering down the roughness, it gets a little bit more metal-like looking at about 0.5 roughness. If I keep going down, it's starting to get a little more shiny. You can kind of make out some reflections behind me. If I do a really low value, I get like a mirror ball. It's like a little Christmas tree ornament. When you make changes to assets in Unreal, you want to make sure to save. It's the little floppy disk icon, in this case in the material editor. Unreal Engine's fairly stable, but it does crash, so don't forget to save. I'm done with this material window, so I'm just going to exit out, close it down. So I made some changes to that material. Here we can also see we have the Unreal Engine logo is a mirrored surface. We can use stencils to make shapes and materials. Here's an emissive material. If I look down at my body, you can see that that emissive light is glowing on me. If I walk backwards, kind of just the blue of the sky. This light is also flickering. You can call it flickering in materials. Let's keep going. Next step, particle effects. You can make particle effects in Unreal Engine using a system called Niagara. Particle effects aren't something we spend a lot of time in here, but they are super neat. And I will say that Niagara artists in Unreal Engine are in very high demand. There's not a ton of people that are good at Niagara. Keep going. Meta sounds. Unreal Engine has spatial audio. So if I get close to this, you can start to hear it play. If I go far enough away, it stops playing. We're not really making games in here, but if we do some live performances, we could use audio, spatial audio. It's funny, I edited that material and now every single block is magenta mirror ball. That's all right. Unreal Engine has physics. We looked at this with motion capture, actually. We can run into this stuff and move the blocks around, or I can run into the chain of blocks. Can run into the ball. Can push the ball down the floor. Go down, ball. See ya. Keep going into the kiosk. For lighting, it says this room can get dark. While editing, you can place a light by holding down L and clicking the left mouse button. We can also add lights from the Place Actors panel or the Quick Add menu in the toolbar. Let's take a look at those. So I'm going to eject, get out of play mode. If I hold down the L key, L for light, and left click on my keyboard, I can add lights. Light, 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 light. You can also add lights from the Quick Add menu. The Quick Add menu is a very important menu to know about. It is up in your top toolbar to the left of the play button. This little block with the plus icon. This is where we can add basic shapes, lights, everything. Everything that we can add natively in Unreal, we can add from this menu. Different types of lights. Let's look at the different types of lights. So in the lights panel in the Place Actors menu, we have directional lights, which is kind of like the sun, point lights, spotlights, rectangular lights, skylights. Mess around with all those different types of lights while you're building your virtual worlds for your assignment. If I click on one of these lights and go to the details panel, there's a lot of settings that I can mess around with. Intensity, color, attenuation radius is basically the spread of the light. I can change the shape of that radius. Does it affect the world? Yes or no? Does it cast shadows? There's all sorts of other things that we can mess around with. So if I wanted to make this light more bright, I could change this from 5,000 to say 50,000. Now it's more bright. What about 500,000? What about 5 million? Now it's very bright. Unreal Engine does have built-in eye adaptation. Just sort of like if you, if you watch a movie in a movie theater and you sit in the dark for 2 hours and then you come out and it's noon, bright sunny day, it takes a little while for your eyes to adjust to the light, right? And see, when I go into this room, it gets really bright. But if I go outside the room, it kind of dims down. And the outside dims down as well. But now if I just look at the sky, it brightens back up. If I look at the light there, everything else dims back down. You can turn this off. It's pretty cool for games, but it's actually kind of annoying to make films, not be in super precise control of your lighting. But we'll look at how to do that in the future, how to turn that eye adaptation off. Change the color. You may notice that some of these lights have red X's on them. That's because they are all stationary lights. They have their mobility set to stationary. You can only have a certain number of stationary lights in a level. Stationary lights mean that they can be dynamic, they can flicker, they can change color, they can change brightness, but they can't move. A movable light can change color, can change brightness, it can flicker, it can also move around. So you can attach that light to, say, a torch or something, and the torch moves around, the light moves around as it's flickering. Then the last type of light is a static light. Static lights do not change. They do not move, they do not change in value. Static lights are the most common type of lights. They are the computationally cheapest type of lights. I will say for our purposes as Unreal Engine beginners, I would suggest setting most of your lights to movable and just living with what it looks like. We don't really have time in this class to get into talking about baked lighting and that sort of thing. Just set things to movable if you're getting the red X. Static is fine too, but static's not going to give you dynamic shadows either. All right, what's next? We made some lights. Try lightening up this room. Great, we did that. Can we go through this wall? Oh, we can. Animation. Animation is something we're going to talk about next week, but we can still look at this. It's actually mirroring my movements right now. It's kind of fun. So that character has a skeleton that is being driven by my keyboard presses, actually, because it's miming my keyboard presses. In our case, with our motion capture data, we essentially have recordings of animations that we will then attach to characters. Let's go to the next kiosk. Sequencer. Sequencer, we're not going to look at today. Whoops. We're not going to look at sequencer today. We'll look at that next class. Essentially, sequencer is the nonlinear timeline in Unreal Engine. If you've ever used a timeline in any sort of video editing software and done keyframes, that's what sequencer is in Unreal. And actually, if I run into this, it triggers a camera sequence a flyover of me at this kiosk. The last step is blueprints, which we're not going to, or not the last step, but we're not going to look at blueprints. We're not going to go through the door. Actually, it's already turned green. That's weird. Oh, the top light didn't turn green. That's what it wants us to do. We're not going to pay attention to that right now. In a future class, we'll talk about blueprints. But again, usually it doesn't make sense to talk about blueprints because nobody wants to do anything live. You just want to make films. But I still do like talking a little bit about blueprints towards the middle of the semester, just so you know what they are. So that's kind of the interactive demo. Over here, well, apparently there's confetti, and then it just talks about templates to use. We're not going to look at any more. We're just going to get out of here. Hit escape. So I think that little tutorial level is useful for Unreal Engine beginners. But once you do it, you're never going to look at this map ever again. So you don't need to do the tutorial again. So what I want to do with our time remaining is build a little level, talk about what you need to do for your assignment, how to add assets with Fab, how to back up your projects, and anything else that we can get into. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to create a new project. I'm going to keep using this project, but what I'm going to do is create a new map, a new level. So I'm going to go up to File, up top, top left, and go to New Level. If you want to create a new project, it's up to you. New Level is going to give me the option of selecting these presets. I usually suggest that you do the basic one unless you know what you're doing. Double click on basic. I don't care about saving anything. And it's just going to give me an empty world to work with. Pretty intimidating. I'm going to start off really simple and reiterate some of the things that we did in the little demo. Everybody that's doing the tutorial should have, in content level prototyping meshes, you should have some sorts of shapes. If you don't, that's okay. We can get shapes from the place actor, the quick add menu up top. If you go to the quick add button and then go down to shapes, you can get shapes there as well. I'm just going to get a cube and put it in my world. Move it around. We learned how to do that with the W, E, and R keys. Remember, I also showed you can use the space bar. Remember, I also said that you can get it up here in the top left toolbar. Other things that you should know before getting into things. This is the grid in Unreal. Each grid unit here corresponds to 1 centimeter in real world. Okay? When designing a world for motion capture, it's good to keep things in perspective when it comes to the scale. You probably want to have it the same scale as your motion capture actor, right? So that's what they're going to be acting to in the real world. Sometimes when you get assets from Fab, you might go and get some sort of world on Fab, and who knows what sort of scale they designed it to. Might be really tiny, might be massive. That's something that you're going to kind of have to deal with if you come across that problem. You're going to have to figure out how to scale down your world or scale up your motion capture actor, your performer. We'll deal with that when it happens. But sometimes what I like to do in the motion capture studio is I will open up my world. I don't really have much of a world right now. I'll open up my world and I will I'll measure out the floor in whatever motion capture room that I'm working in. and I will set kind of boundaries. I'll make like a boxing ring or a wrestling ring, like an area that I know that my motion capture performer is going to perform in. And if I'm placing them in the world, it will give me some sort of idea of where they're going to be in this world. And you really can only do this when you're streaming live into Unreal, which we really haven't looked at yet, but we'll look at that in a future class. If you're just using Motive, again, it's useful to measure out the motion capture room and kind of just drag around a shape that is that measurement within your world to kind of give you some sort of context of how it's going to work, how the performance is going to work in the room. Other things that you should know. Snapping. So you might see as I drag this cube, see how it snaps to those grid units. It's not smooth, it's snapping. And if I rotate, it's also snapping in 10-degree increments. Scale snaps as well. Snapping can be turned on and off with these icons right here. First one on the left is move, the middle one is rotate, and the last one is scale. You can also change the snapping increments. Snapping can be useful, especially if you're working with modular pieces from something you got from the marketplace. It helps them snap together really quickly, rather than you having to go in really close and eyeball it really closely. So that's how you can turn snapping on and off, is just by turning the blue on and off. Other things that you should know while we're here. In this menu that currently says perspective, you can change your camera view. If you've ever used 3D program before, or even After Effects, you know that there can be different camera views. Orthographic views, right views, front views, back views. These can be helpful to change your camera angle when designing. This is a top view of my world right now. I happen to be in wireframe view right now. We can change the view modes with this next box, which currently says wireframe. If you're still in perspective mode, it says lit. If I click on this drop down, it's going to allow me to change to these different things. That's lit. Unlit is without any lights. Wireframe is obviously wireframe. If I zoom out here, now I'm seeing a top view of my cube in lit mode. If I click on the drop down, I can go back to perspective view. Do you ever have to change camera angles? No, but it is useful when building to know that that's possible. Also remember the F key. The F key allows you to focus on your object. I'm going to zoom all the way over here, and I'm going to click on my cube and hit F. I think you can also double click on the objects. No, that doesn't work in Unreal. F key, and it zooms right to it. If you're selected on something in Unreal, you can also orbit around it. Again, this is common in 3D tools. If you hold down the Alt key, I think it's an option on a Mac, Alt key on your keyboard and left click, hold, you can orbit around your object smoothly. You can also hold down right to zoom in and out on it while orbiting around it. It's nice to quickly get a 360 view of what you're working on. Other menus, we don't really need these right now. We'll look at the other stuff next week. What else? Let's look at Fab. Let's start bringing something in. So if you go to your content browser or the content drawer, you should see a button here that says Fab. If you click this button, it's going to open up the Fab window, which I'm going to snap into my content browser so I can click between them for organizational sake. You're going to need to have an account. It's the same account that you logged into the Epic Launcher with. You're going to need to log into Fab right now. I'm logged in already. So here I can see my library for stuff that I've gotten in the past. This is all the stuff that I showed you in the Epic Launcher earlier. Tons and tons of stuff. Oh, here's our Brachiosaurus. If I click on anything in Fab, it shows me a preview of things. Screenshots. Sometimes there's 360 wraparounds. Sometimes there's links to videos. There's also details about what you're getting with this asset before you decide to download it or buy it if you're buying it. This tells me that I'm getting this Brachiosaurus. It is a rigged animation, meaning it has animation. It has 17 animations. We have Brachiosaurus idle, look left, look right, block, walk, turn left, turn right, attack, death, eating, all these things. And usually there's links here to, usually it's YouTube video previews, so you can get an idea of what it is that you're working with. Oh, finally, Fab is kind of a new introduction to Unreal. They used to have a different marketplace. They finally brought back reviews, like written reviews. Believe it or not, that was not there when Fab launched a year ago. So dumb. But it looks like they have reviews now too, which is useful before you go and spend money if you're spending money. You want to add it to the project? Add project. And then when you click the add to project button, well, in this case, this is an old asset, so you may or may not get this pop-up depending on what your asset is. It says this asset is not compatible with 5.7. When that happens, it's okay. Just click the most recent version to the version you're using. And in my case, that would be version 5.0. This is just a mesh, so it should absolutely work fine. And click add to project. Sometimes you won't see that error at all. Depending on how big the thing is that you're downloading, this could take a while. This should be pretty quick because it's just a massive dinosaur. When that downloads, it probably will take you back to your content browser. And then you should see you have a folder for that asset, whatever asset that is that you got. You probably don't have Brachiosaurus because it's not a free asset. I bought it a long time ago, so I have it. So here in the folder, I can get the animations for that. I can drag in the dinosaur. I'm just grabbing onto it in the content browser and dragging them in. It's really big. And then I can move him around like I did the cube or any other sort of asset.
Wait, sorry, did you click add to project or no library?
Add to your project. Add to your library is just gonna like bookmark it in your library for you, so you can
Like
find.
the Fab library.
Well, in Fab, there's the store, and then there's like your basket, right? Your cart, right? So this little button right to the left of the wish list, this one right here, that is your library, which is probably empty. What else do we have here? We have a folder of materials. The materials is the dinosaur skin. Rigs is probably the skeletal mesh of the dinosaur. Yup. The textures, there's the textures of the dinosaur. That's what an unwrapped Brachiosaurus looks like. There's also a maps folder. And you never really know what you're going to get here, which is why it's good to read the reviews and look at the YouTube videos if the asset has them. I'm going to open up this preview map, and I assume it's probably going to be an overview of all the animations. I'm going to click Don't Save. Sure enough, it is. Look at that. Look at all those beauties lined up there. I bet if I click play, it's going to show me all of them animated. But for some reason, it put me by the dinosaur's butt. There we go. This is an overview map of all the assets, which is really useful for an asset like this, where the asset is an animated dinosaur. It's nice to have a gallery of seeing all this stuff together so you can make decision of which you want to use. Most assets have these sorts of overview maps associated with them. There are other types of assets, though, in Fab. There are assets that are like full environments, right? So like here's an asset that is just a tree. It's like a cherry blossom tree, right? Maybe you get a couple different versions of the tree, but it's not an environment. Whereas this one in Fab, whatever this is, Decay Oil Drums District, this is an environment. It's an environment that's been constructed from a bunch of assets. These buildings, the debris, whatever else is in here. Let's take a look at this one. What do we got here? So these screenshots are useful because it shows us this is what we built with these assets. I guess you can join their Discord channel if you want. You can make this a shanty town here. But here's also a picture of the overview map. This shows us all the assets laid out like in a supermarket, so you can know what you're getting. You can also see more examples of how it was used. You know, this asset is expensive. $200. Gotta wait for that one to go free. But it does have 7 people that have purchased it. They really like it though. Look at that. 5 stars. Well, I'm not gonna drop the $200 on that. Sorry, y'all. Maybe next week. But let's find one that is free. Or I'll just go to my library. I have some that exist. How would you even like find free assets? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked. So in the Discover window in Fab, you can browse by different types of things. Are you looking for materials? Are you looking for 3D objects? What kind of 3D objects? You can click the filter and drop down. Characters, buildings, whatever you want. Once you click into a category, you can select the price and you can say only show free projects, and it will show just the free products. It's going to be a lot less, but you can make lots of projects from this stuff. So you see some assets are just assets, some are environments. I already have one downloaded. In the interest of time, I went and downloaded this one already. This is it's called Necropolis. It's a little spooky. It's a lot of assets. It's a big level. If I go into the levels folder, you see it has an overview map or level. Then it also has a demo map. The overview map is like the supermarket overview where it shows all the assets spread out so you can know what you have to work with. The demo map is going to be a constructed map that they put together. For your assignment, I don't want you to just take screenshots of somebody else's demo map for me. That is not very useful. I will know. I'm going to open the demo map though, just to show you. This is what we got here. May take a little bit for it to load. It's kind of like a spooky graveyard scene. The fog's flickering right now because it's still processing. Should be okay in a second, maybe. You might also see there's all of these UI elements here, like these lights, right? How do I hide these? Very useful keyboard shortcut, the G key. G for game. Game view. on your keyboard hides those. When you render, it's not going to render these icons, but they might just be annoying to you to see. So just hide them. Not entirely sure why the fog looks so crappy right now. Maybe because I'm recording OBS at the same time. Oh, okay. Oh. Looked okay for a second, then it flickered back. Well, anyways. So this is a completed map that has individual assets still that I could go and modify, move around, do whatever I wanted to them. You can use environments as a basis. You can take assets from environments and put them in your own levels, copy paste. I could probably modify this level. I could go and get the giant dinosaur and put him in the forest here. That makes sense. It's a bummer about this fog flickering, though. I don't like that. Let's see if I can fix this real quick. I think it's because I'm recording the video. Computer ran out of RAM. Well, that's a bummer. That's flickering. Could probably delete all of these fog planes. Stop getting a seizure. There we go. That's better. Still looks okay. I just deleted all the fog planes. And now I have a dinosaur in this world. I could add lights into this world. Do whatever you want. You know, this is your mission for this assignment, is to build some sort of world. I want you to build it. I don't want you to just show me a demo map. I want you to really customize something. I don't mind you starting with worlds that are made, but you really need to modify it. So that's how we add fab assets into a project. Super crucial skill to know for this assignment. Is there any questions about how we do that yet? If you would want to import something custom, there's an import button in the content browser. You can import textures, 3D models, that sort of stuff. If you don't know what you're doing, though, things can get weird, which is why most people will probably stick with fab. So I made changes to this world. I added a light and I added a dinosaur. What if I want to save it? Well, that's a very important thing to know. If you look at this up top here, it says demo_necropolis. And it has a little asterisk next to it, right? The asterisk means that it's not saved. If I imported something into Unreal, you can have little asterisks next to assets in your content browser as well. It means it's not saved. If I crash, this stuff's going to be gone. The changes that I do in the world are going to be gone. The assets that I created in the content browser are going to be gone. I'm going to be screwed. So the way that you can save is there's a save all button here in the content browser. There's a couple different ways to do this. There's also file, save all up top here. I suggest doing save all rather than save. And as soon as I click save all, it's going to tell me, hey, this is the stuff you're saving. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, I do. You're going to see those asterisks disappear. It's not on the material anymore. And it's also not on demo_necropolis. So now next time I open this map up, This is what I'm going to see. A dinosaur with a light in a spooky place. Questions about that? Really, the best advice I can give you to familiarize yourself with this is just to experiment. It's a box of Legos. Just drag them around and play with them. Put a lot of time into browsing the Fab Marketplace too. Set the filter to free and just look through what's available. Don't forget to snag those free February assets. Put them in your account. I would start by browsing the marketplace and then come up with some sort of plan for something that you want to build. And then build that. So the assignment was to build some sort of virtual world using marketplace assets and then to post screenshots to your blog. We haven't talked about cameras in Unreal yet or anything like that. So all I'm looking for is just a nice screenshot of the viewport. Drive your camera around and then screenshot. I will show you a little bit better way than just hitting print screen and taking this view. Also, screen recordings. You know, if you have a world, take us through it. I want to see what's behind this gate and then up the stairs. You know, drive us along. We haven't talked about animated cameras where we can fly through this. So just drive us with your mouse. Drive us through the level. Then post that to your blog. Different things will be appropriate for different worlds. So let me show you how to do the high-res screenshot in Unreal. So if you click on this drop down right here, it probably says perspective for you. This is the camera view. Down at the bottom, it says high resolution screenshot. It's going to open up a little menu with a blue button that says capture. Really, you just need to do two things. You need to set the screen size multiplier. Do not go crazy with this number. I would not go above 3, or you will probably crash Unreal. And then you click the blue capture button. What this is doing is it's going to give me a screenshot. If I leave this at 1, it's going to give me a screenshot that is the resolution of this viewport right now. If I set this to 2, it's going to give me a screenshot that is 2 times the resolution of this viewport right now. Also, the aspect ratio of the viewport, depending on what you have it as. I'm going to leave mine at, you know what, I'm going to tempt fate and do 3 and click the capture button. It says large multipliers may cause graphics drivers to crash. Uh-oh, it is currently frozen. Just be patient. Don't panic. I would not suggest doing 3. That's unnecessary for your assignment. Oh, it fixed. It did it. It did it. So when it finishes, there's going to be a little pop-up that pops up in the bottom right. It pops up and disappears incredibly quickly. Let me do a 1. And pay attention to the bottom right. Oh, actually, let me zoom in on it. Freeze it. So this is going to pop up really quick. That's a link that you can click, and it's going to take you right to the folder where these get saved to. Let me also show you where it gets saved to. So wherever you created your project, and that's up to you, inside the project, you have a saved folder. Inside of that saved folder, there is a screenshots folder, Windows Editor folder. This is where your screenshots will live. You can see this one that I took. Oh, this is a 4K monitor, so that is very high resolution. I really was tempting fate. The first one with a multiplier of 1, pretty big screenshot. It's like 2K. The other screenshot that I did is actually 8K. Massive screenshot. Well, I can zoom in. This is 100% if I zoom in here. So this is what we're looking for our assignment. Use the screenshot tool in Unreal, do a little camera fly through, screen recording, post it up to the blog. Questions about the assignment? Okay. But let's look at backing up your project again. Let's walk through this again. So when we create a new project, if you're going to create a new project, in the interest of time, when you create a new project, it's going to give you this menu, right? We don't need to do the tutorial again unless you really had a lot of fun. You click the new project blue button on the left. It's going to pop up this window. It's going to ask you which type of project you want to create. Usually I suggest blank game or blank film and video. That's what I would suggest for you. Down bottom here, it's going to ask you where you want to save that project. Is that on your external hard drive? Is that on the post-lab computer's hard drive? That's up to you to decide. And then it's also going to ask you to name that project. That's where you initially save your project. And that's where it will be located for you when you go and get your screenshots or when you're trying to go back it up. Where did mine get saved to? See, users, default or post-lab? Post-lab. Actually don't know where my project got created. Documents. Unreal projects. There we go. Yeah, so this is the project that I've been working with. Unreal UE intro project. If I look in the content folder, hey, look at that. There's some recognizable stuff here. There's the Brachiosaurus. And there is the Necropolis folder. We didn't end up using the chicken. But here's the stuff. I want to back up this entire folder right here. The one that has the content folder in it. You see I have a couple projects here now, but I'm just talking about the one in the middle right now. This is what I would drag to my external hard drive or upload to Google Drive. Then I would open this up on my other computer. If I do have another computer, I would double click this and it would open up my project again. If you're only using post-lab computers, don't just save it on these computers because these computers get wiped, okay? Save it to an external hard drive. I assume most of you will probably be using the post-lab. That's what your blog said, at least during week 1. Just make sure you're backing up. Questions? Well, now the hard part is designing something, and that's all on you. Exciting, right? Have fun with it. Don't freak out too much. Check out Fab, see what's available, and start building a little world around it. You're going to see there's vastly different stuff in Fab to work with. Some is very low poly, some is photorealistic. You got to see what you got to work with. Again, I'm not asking you to spend any money in here. When we get you access to the IDM account, it's not going to be today. It's not going to be for this assignment. So you got to make it work with what you have for free. Questions? Question? Maybe?
We're supposed to work from scratch.
You can start with a pre-made environment. You just need to customize the hell out of it.
So like,
That's fine. Just make it your own. Yeah, just make it your own. I mean, you should want to make it your own, you know? What else? What else? What else? I think that's really it. Really just need to dive in and start messing around with stuff. Next week, we're going to talk about bringing animations in. We'll talk about using the timeline. We'll talk about animating cameras, and we'll talk about rendering, so we can actually render videos out. We will not use our motion capture next week. We may use other motion capture, but not our custom motion capture yet. Okay. All right, I'm gonna post this video to YouTube, and then I'll post it on the Discord channel.